I noticed the Greens this morning said we all should look at ourselves in the mirror. Well, you know what? I say right back at you today, right back at you. Because quite frankly, whilst I have no idea why you're blocking this legislation, they are thugs, they are bullies, and they treat women like second-class citizens. And that is what the CFMEU is doing. And yet you're standing by them. Just blows me away. I have a very good source that construction workers are being compelled to join the CFMEU for an annual fee of $1,200 as a condition for participating in the Victorian big build projects. This practice raises serious concerns about the violation of workers' rights and the enforcement of freedom of association, which is a fundamental legal principle in Australia. My sources say this is happening on foreign-owned Tier 1 contractors, such as CPB, John Holland, and the owner, and they must be held accountable for their apparent disregard for Australian law. These companies must follow our local laws or lose the privilege of working on taxpayer-funded projects. I've also received credible information that suggests that these Tier 1 contractors may be colluding with the CFMEU to breach anti-competition laws and engage in price fixing on government projects. This alleged conspiracy involves selecting only CFMEU-endorsed, non-competitive labour hire firms, undermining fair competition. Specifically, I want to address a senior executive. Let's call him Craig, not his real name. Craig moved from the CPB to the UGL and the CIMIC Group company. It has come to my attention that Craig may have collaborated with the CFMEU to unfairly target and remove AWU-affiliated workers from government-funded project in Melbourne. This is not only unethical, it's illegal, and misbehaviour cannot be tolerated. And Craig is just one of many that I have been made aware of. If foreign-owned contractors continue to engage in or turn a blind eye to this level of corruption, then the government needs to consider withholding taxpayer funding from their federal projects, effective immediately. Regarding certain CFMEU officials, including Gerry McCrudden and his associate Gerry McCrudden, both men were exposed by aged journalist Nick McKenzie for threatening a traffic management firm. This government needs to investigate the possibility of revoking their work rights in Australia, once again effective immediately. Joe Myles, who I understand plays a significant role in orchestrating these activities in Victoria, should also be looked at. As a Senior Vice President of the CFMEU, Joe Myles' actions reflect very poorly not just on him, but on an organisation as a whole. It's time to remove individuals like Joe and the other dumb and dumber officials I've mentioned from any involvement in government-funded construction projects. If the Greens can find their courage today and help get that administrator in place, the administrator will be able to look at these CFMEU credit cards, and I'm looking forward to that. Because I've been told they will find some interesting charges. That's right, some interesting charges. But I say this while I'm waiting for the administrator. If the ATO and ASIC isn't already onto this, before we make fools of you, I suggest you start looking at it today, because this is part of your departmental jobs. Here's a wake-up call. There is information available out there. People are prepared to come forward. So once again, if the ATO and ASIC isn't looking at this, I suggest you'll be very wise before you are called out to start looking. Finally, the ongoing issues with union raffles, ghosting by union officials, and the alleged skimming of funds from training programs, long service leave, income protection, and superannuation also needs to be put under the administrator's microscope. It needs to be part of the whole program. If you're not going to look at them in full, then we're wasting taxpayers' money in going in the first time. Once and for all, if just one side of politics can finally clean up the CFMEU, finally clean them up and set an example, then the rest of the unions can follow. We'd have a much better Australia for it. There is no doubt. These activities appear to be designed to siphon off money from workers to benefit union officials, but who would have guessed? Rather than serving the interests of the workers they claim to be representing. So if we can get this administration in place today, that'll be a good start of cleaning this up. Every day we wait is another day that this corruption and intimidation just goes on and on. Additionally, in Queensland and now Western Australia, they have introduced the best practice industry conditions. This is the CFMEU takeover by stealth, and they are coming in those states. Interesting, isn't it? Both Labor states, eh? How about that? Feeding their own. In Queensland, all projects over $100 million are subject to the best practice industry conditions. And in Western Australia, the threshold of $1 million is coming soon. We have EBAs and industrial agreements, and now these states are bringing in CFMEU conditions by stealth through state-based legislation. That's what your own state Labor Party is doing to you. They are working against you, and they should be shameful. And I'll tell you now, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see every Labor power, every Labor Party that is in power in every state also join up to the 3 years where we'll not take any money from the CFMEU. I want to hear it from them. I want to hear them. I want to know what your partners in the states are doing on this. Because it's going to and is causing incredible damage. So not just the federal, not taking money. It's about time your states grew a backbone, your Labor states out there grew a backbone, your premiers, and said, we too are going to join the forces here. We are not taking CFMEU donations for 3 years. Otherwise, this is just a joke. Seriously, and it makes you people over here look really bad. Because I have to say, what is the point of EBAs and Fair Work if the states introduce their own rules? Because that is where we are at. And seriously, it's just beyond a joke. So I want to hear from you Labor premiers out there. I'm putting it on you today, and you journalists should be ringing every single one of them and asking them if they are going to say we are not taking money from the CFMEU as of today. Let's see what you've got.